Hey, welcome to week 3 of a brand new year, 2024. Is that not weird?
Absolutely.
That's just kind of weird to say that. Although, I remember saying that about 2000.
Yeah, right.
And then 2010. And, 2020.
We don't talk about 2020.
It's just weird.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Hey, welcome to Mike the Baptist. Welcome to H.C. Jones.
Hey, good to see you, Michael.
My preacher friend, Michael Koontz.
Hello, Jackson.
My preacher friend. And I'm Mike the Baptist. I'm not a preacher, but on the first episode this year, HD said something about they may have to make me one.
Getting that ordination council set up, I believe.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah.
Stranger things have happened on the planet, but not many. Not many. Hey, listen, Mike the Baptist is all about just being common. I have a lot of practice at that, but so do my guests here that are sitting at the table with me.
You're welcome.
Who are not even guests anymore. Do y'all realize that you're not, you're just a part of the fabric? I'll think about all that later. It kind of got away in my head there a little bit. But anyway, we're glad you're back. And once again, we encourage you to send us an email, especially for the first month or so here about the new format. We've shortened the format, and I don't think it's so much just because we wanted to cater to anybody, but I think maybe the effect of the program is what we were looking at.
Oh, it's the demand of the people. Just be honest.
Well, that too, yes. Yeah. And so
mostly our wives, they're like, could y'all hurry up and finish this up and come home?
I did hear about that. But, the good news is, and one thing I think is beneficial, if I'm understanding the podcast world better, until you become a Joe Rogan and can just do whatever you want to do, you need to fit these things in maybe drive time or something. I think that's the one thing I hear the most about being able to listen to it quickly and get to the end of it. There are some diehard people who I have found that will listen to a little bit of it here and then they'll listen again and they'll listen to the whole thing. It's just not all in one.
So should we change our podcast to fit their needs, or should they get a job in Brentwood? See, if they have further to drive.
Well, I was just thinking about, I just drove back from Atlanta the other day, and I was like, man, I was able to listen to several episodes.
You could, and somebody took a trip here recently and told me that's what they did all the way up to their trip and back, and it was like a 7-hour drive or something. That's what they did. They listened to these things over and over. I'm going like, hey,
we are here to serve.
Wish there's a way to collect a royalty off of them, but it's not about the money. However, you can go to www.mikethebaptist.com and buy you a shirt or a mug, and a little of that money will go toward paying for a light bill or something. Very little, because there's very little involved. But did I mention the email?
You did not.
Comments at mikethebaptist.com. Send us an email, whatever you want to say. Just say it. And especially right now for this first month, though, I just want your reaction to the new format. Speaking of the new format, we kept the front porch visit. That's not going anywhere. You might notice that there hasn't been a hymn at the end of the first 2 programs this year, and just kind of trying that out to see what the reaction is. If there's no reaction, it doesn't really matter anyway.
Do we need to give them a song today so they have a song in their heart?
We can. I don't want to totally get rid of that because it's just so funny to me.
Yeah.
You know what's really funny to me about that?
Hearing us sing?
No. Well, that's funny too, but there's a part of me that takes great delight in doing things in this Christian world that some older, maybe not older, but more traditional folks have a little trouble wondering about. Well, can you do that? Can you not do that?
We have to be honest with our listeners too. Part of the reasons that we needed to curb that back a little bit is all the offers we were getting from Nashville from people wanting us to sing all the time.
A record deal a week.
And we've got our primary calling, can't be all things to all people.
That's correct.
So let's curb that back a little bit.
And I felt bad about taking some of those offers just on my own, because you hear the story like Lionel Richie, he ditched the Commodores and went and did his own thing, and then there were bad blood. So just so you guys know why I'm not taking those.
We don't have a nasty breakup, do we?
No. We don't want to be a documentary someday, like those bands.
Behind the music.
Yeah, behind them. We don't want to be behind the music, behind the podcast, behind the Baptists. Anyway, so the front porch visit's still here, and we're going to go there right now. Sometimes have these topics in my mind, and I think, that's going to be really nice and serious and a meaningful, profound talk. And then HD gets a hold of it. And
you're welcome.
And the redneck just comes oozing out. But not every time. And it's not always just HD. Koontz is capable of being a redneck as well. And so am I. My point is, you just never know. So I've found that we just bring the topic up and we take it where it goes. Mm-hmm. Today's topic, I thought it'd be interesting to know where you've been the farthest from where you are now, from where you live. What's the farthest place on this planet or this universe? Because I'm saying all the time, what a great planet. What's the furthest place in the universe you've been? Koontz, let's start with you today.
All right, yeah, so this is a challenge for me because I'm trying to do the math on this one.
Okay.
And the Maps application did not help me because I started with Seattle, Washington. That's just under 2,000 miles to get out to there.
Okay.
And then thinking about the Caribbean islands that I've been to.
Yes.
And I'm like, I think they're about the same, but I'm not really sure. So I'm going to go with like St. John's Island, down in the Eastern Caribbean.
You were just there.
I was just there.
Yes.
And now Seattle's weird. There's a lot of weird stuff out in Seattle, but St. John's, it's just a completely different landmass. It's not even connected to us, so it's totally different than what we're used to around here. So I think St. John's might be the furthest away from home that I've been so far.
What's the landmass? Is it like sand and palm trees?
Actually, no. And I think I mentioned this one time last year. The reason I love the Caribbean islands is because it's like taking the Smoky Mountains and sitting them down in the ocean. It's just beautiful mountains tipping up out of the water.
Like the very tip of the mountains, or
well, some of them like one of them's like 1,800 feet high. The peak of the island, I think that's St. Thomas, maybe.
So it's like looking at the Smokies when there's clouds down low.
Sure, yeah, just sitting out there in the middle of the ocean.
Yet there's a beach.
This is a little confusing.
It is
interesting,
but it's beautiful because they're covered with just nice trees like you'd see over in East Tennessee and stuff.
So like, did you get out of the boat and like go on the sand or anything while you were there?
We went to we took an excursion to St. John's Island.
Excursion,
and because the cruise boat docks at St. Thomas.
Yep.
And then you have to take a ferry to go over to this other island, St. John's.
Right.
It's like a 45-minute another little boat ride to get over to there. And then we took a bus tour around this island that's like 19 square miles.
Nice.
It's not real big. But, so we went around it, saw a place called Cinnamon Bay that was real beautiful. And, they're showing you where all these famous people own islands out there and stuff.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. It's
interesting.
It's a different life, laid back.
He went to Epstein's Island. Come on,
well, I was wondering about.
They pointed it out to us.
Did you send a picture of that to a couple of us?
I think I did back in the springtime.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that.
Yep.
I have an odd question. I'll try to make it brief since we're trying to save time on a new format. When you Google distance, like when you Google map to Seattle. Mm-hmm. It's giving you mileage if you're driving, but if you're Googling to the St. Thomas Islands, what does it do with the water there?
It gave me nothing. That's where I ran into my dilemma because it just was like, no, there's no directions there.
Interesting. I just now thought about that.
I'm like comparing, like, is it that far? There?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
With the old atlases, you could do that. You could take a ruler.
And I used to do that all the time.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore. Yeah. So many young people nowadays, I actually saw... Where did I see it? Somewhere on the television. Some young person could not get where they were going because their GPS was down. They could not figure it out.
Yep.
I'm going like, we're in a little bit of trouble. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's nice. That was very good and proper, and a good explanation of what was there.
And then
Brother Hodo. Yes.
So just last year, Susan and I went to Hawaii. So that's definitely the farthest place.
Yeah,
that's a long way.
Now I'm gonna tell you some scary things that happen.
Okay.
Seems like everywhere we go burns down. So 2 years ago,
2
years ago we went out to Estes Park. They had the wildfires out in Colorado, and like literally we're hopping around. I mean, I could see the fire from our hotel, and even asked the people, I'm like, should I be concerned about that red glow?
That's why you were there.
And she was like, no, it's on the other side of the mountain, blah, blah, blah. So we went and stayed in one little town, the next day moved on to another town and read in the newspaper that that town had burned down.
The one that you were in?
Yeah. So then,
Wow. Worried about it, but now it's gone.
Wow.
So then this year, last year in 23, we go to Hawaii, and we've gone to Maui, and there's a little community there, Lahaina, and it's kind of like, I call it like Gatlinburg in Hawaii, just a little strip with all these little places, T-shirt shops and taffy shops. So, we mill around down there and did our thing, come on back home, and then they had the fires in Maui. Whole little town's gone.
You're going to have to go traveling.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Do you know what this means?
What?
Disneyland's about to go up in
Let's hope
flames.
not, right?
Because you went there this year.
I know.
We won't be friends anymore.
If he takes Disney out,
That's right.
it's over.
Yeah,
That's it.
I know. It's rough, isn't it?
So how far was it to Hawaii, do you know?
About 9 hours in a plane.
That's a long way.
Long way. It's about all I could do. I'd had enough.
So a Holy Lands trip would be difficult.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
It'd be a long way. Was it our friend Jason was telling me about the flight back from Nepal?
21 hours in a plane.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I
don't know
can't.
about that.
I can't imagine that.
He's like, it really wasn't that bad. You get up and you watch 3 movies. I'm like,
yeah, it'd been bad for me after about
goodness.
halfway through that first movie.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of like going, let me outside for a little bit, out on the wing or something, just for a minute.
I think Koontz has, forgotten the trip he and I took, because we went to outer space.
Oh,
dude.
I saw you light up when I said
That's
universe.
right.
We went to outer
I
space.
was wondering where he was going with
I
that.
must,
did
I must
forget
hear
about
that.
this.
I must
Yeah.
hear this.
Yeah. So there's a place in Epcot, and it's what's the name of the restaurant?
It's numbers. There's some numbers in it, right?
Yeah.
Y'all aren't good with numbers.
No,
so.
we're not. Anyway, it's a restaurant, and literally you go in this little restaurant and you get on a galactic elevator, and that thing takes off, and you're looking at your feet, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're in the sky. It opens up, and you go out there, and there's little men floating around out in space, and
Had
Really?
dinner on the space station.
yeah,
Really?
yeah, it's really cool.
So is the floor under you a video too, where it's like,
Not once you get in the
Yeah.
restaurant part. I mean, you're on the space station then.
oh, I see.
So you
So
have
there's a floor
solid,
along.
Yeah.
good gravity and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
But yeah, in the little elevator thing
Yeah, it's
that
really
takes you
cool.
up there, the center part's a window, and you just watch everything go out of sight.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really cool.
So how did
He's
you
got a
Google
great
it to see
memory.
how far it was?
I did not.
Because that's the topic.
Yeah. Well,
Yes. Interesting. Okay.
So how far out of Arkansas have you gotten?
Well, listen, for a long time, I had never been farther than Dallas, Fort Worth from where I grew up in Arkansas, and that was only 400 and something miles. Oddly enough, I wound up living in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's almost the exact same trip from here to where I'm from in Arkansas as it was from Arkansas to Fort Worth. Isn't that interesting? Little free fact for you there. Haiti is the only place I've been. I've been to Chicago. I've been all, out to the East Coast and Floridas and all that. When I was young, we would travel out to Washington, not Seattle, but Yakima. Yakima was an area where a lot of orchards were.
And I think that's further away than Haiti is.
Is it really?
Mileage-wise. Yeah, because
I didn't
Haiti's
know
not
that.
too far away from Florida.
Yeah.
So it's Yakima then, I guess.
Y'all drove out to Washington to get some apples?
In the summer, I've done a little reading about the history of the area I grew up in, and before the interstate, the highway system, the area I grew up in had a lot of orchards. They grew apples and
Johnny
peaches and
Appleseed came
stuff.
through.
I guess he did, and strawberries. I grew up on a strawberry farm. But back in the day, before the highway system became where they could drive the big trucks and move produce around quicker, they had orchards. Well, when that went away, a lot of the people that were experienced in doing that began traveling to Washington State. And my family, for some reason, knew a guy that had an orchard out there. And they and several people that they knew would travel out there when school was out. I remember this well. They would load a station wagon up with enough stuff to live, quilts and pillows and odds and ends. They would load enough stuff in the back of that station wagon, and they would fill the floorboards in the back seat with stuff. and then they would put blankets across the stuff and the back seat. And my brother and I, it was like we were in a bed, and they would travel to Washington. When school was out, they would stop on the side of the road, and we would sleep. And it took a couple of days or 3 to get there. But then they would work those orchards with a lot of other people from that area for a couple of months in the summer and then come back. And so, part of me grew up in Yakima, Washington. And I can still remember being a little tyke and still remember going up on those mountains where you could see the snow up there, but it wasn't snow down. And we would go trek, halfway up those mountains. I remember the Indian people. A lot of Indian people were out there. There was a reservation somewhere in that area, but I remember those people. They were
Casinos?
And in those days, I don't think the casino thing had happened yet. I think that was a little later. But so Yakima, that's interesting. I did not know that it was. I was going to say Haiti. It's the only place I've been, but Yakima would be it then.
Pretty sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have? Can you Google how far Yakima is? Because I didn't Google that. I didn't Google Haiti because I figured it didn't have driving knowledge. So
Yakima is 1,867 miles.
Really? That's a long way.
Yeah.
Well, that's from here, so maybe.
Oh yeah, so you knock 400 miles off of it.
So, yeah.
1,400 miles. Wow. That's a long way in a station wagon.
Another
Haiti
story.
from here is 1,500 miles.
Really?
It did give me that.
So it's about the same.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. All right, good front porch visit. We'll move along before we tell things we don't want to tell. So, anyway, 3rd week of the new year. Happy to have you guys back in the building. And we're going to come back and talk about some stuff we found in the Bible. We will be back shortly. Thank you for listening to and watching Mike the Baptist. We hope you get something out of these programs and that they bring you a bit of joy and hope. This year, we want to ask you to help us grow our listening audience by simply sharing these podcasts and video episodes with your friends on social media and in the real world. Our goal is simple: talk about our faith and how it affects our lives using common language, just the way people really talk. The message really is good news for people who are already churched up and for those who aren't yet, because the good news isn't something we're given to keep to ourselves. It's meant to be shared. So we're asking you to share this year by telling others about the foolishness and the fun on Mike the Baptist. Happy New Year. We're just Christians trying not to cuss. We're back. And, I'm always babbling at the beginning of this section about how fascinating the Bible is, blah, 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 blah. Well, you know what it is. I've been scolded before for saying stuff like that.
That's not sacrilegious or anything.
No.
How exciting the Bible is, blah, 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 whatever.
You know me.
Yeah.
I can get a little bored with churchy stuff. That's why the buzzer's here. Let me remind everybody what that sound means. Koontz, what does that sound mean?
That means that we are barking up the right tree.
Well, I wasn't expecting that because I thought you were going to say the wrong tree, but you're saying the right tree.
We're talking about God stuff.
We are talking about God stuff, but the buzzer might mean that I felt like personally it's getting a little too churchy. So, and I understand. We've had this conversation before. I understand you have to be a little churchy talking about this stuff. So, if there again, the buzzer's here. And you can reach across the table and hit it too. If it gets too churchy, and I feel like maybe we're not reaching the common man, that's what the buzzer's for.
Gotcha.
So words like what's one of those big church words? Sanctification. I might buzz that, not because I don't believe in it, but just because I might want you to explain it. Anyway, I'm going to turn this section over to you guys because you've been to school for talking about the Bible. I have not, obviously. So,
all right. So, so that we don't get too churchy, I'm going to ask people to open their Bibles to Psalm 139 because we're going to read Psalm 139. This week, we're actually talking about the sanctity of life, and should be a very big deal to us, especially in the church and in our society. But listen to this short psalm, Psalm 139. It says, "Lord, you have searched me and known me. You know when I sit down and when I stand up. You understand my thoughts from far away. You observe my travels and my rest. You are aware of all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you know all about it, Lord. You have encircled me. You have placed your hand on me. This extraordinary knowledge is beyond me. It is lofty, and I am unable to reach it. Where can I go to escape your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to heaven, you're there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I live at the eastern horizon or settle at the western limits, even there your hand will lead me. Your right hand will hold on to me. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me, and the light around me will be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night shines like the day. Darkness and light are alike to you. For it was you who created my inward parts. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I will praise you because I have been remarkably and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know this very well. My bones were not hidden from you. When I was made in secret, when I was formed in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw me when I was formless. All my days were written in your book and planned before a single one of them began. God, how difficult your thoughts are for me to comprehend. How vast their sum is. If I counted them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I wake up, I am still with you. God, if only you would kill the wicked. You bloodthirsty men, stay away from me, who invoke you deceitfully. Your enemies swear by you falsely. Lord, don't I hate those who hate you, and detest those who rebel against you? I hate them with extreme hatred. I consider them my enemies. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my concerns. See if there is any offensive way in me. Lead me in the everlasting way.
That's one of David's Psalms where he is talking about how big God is. I'm waiting for you to buzz me. But we talk about in
big
church,
is acceptable.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping. We talk about in church all of these things that God is all-knowing, all-powerful. He is outside of time, and he's sovereign, which means he's going to accomplish his will. That's what David is talking about. I love where he says he can't get away from him. If I try to hide in the darkness, you see right through the darkness. Even if I went into Sheol, which was the place of the dead for the Jews, he goes, there you are. Why is that hard for us to accept that this is who God is? I mean, those are some big statements, but why is that so hard for our minds to grasp that, do you think?
You mean that he knows all and is all, et cetera, et cetera?
Yep.
Probably because we can't do that, and so it's hard to picture. That's a pretty big thought if you sit around trying to think about that he would know what you're up to, and me too, even if I'm in Yakima and you're
right.
That's really hard. I don't think we could ever really understand that, but.
And we're also very tangible people. We like things that we can pick up and hold and see and examine and stuff like that. And like you were saying, he's able to do things we can't do. So it really is hard to comprehend that. Something that's just absolutely impossible for me to do.
How would you be able to think about all that?
Right.
At one time.
Yeah.
Well, to me, there's a place in me when I get confused about that, and I want to be careful because there's different theological beliefs about what are the names of all these different things.
The sovereignty of God and the free will of man.
Well, there's different
the omnipresence.
And all that stuff. Yeah. To me, I always go back to I am connected directly to God through my spirit and my soul. And he is directly connected to everybody that way. So in a way, the three of us are connected that way. I'm connected with him that way. I can kind of understand him when I think in that kind of a term. I'm saying I'm being careful because there are different beliefs or denominations or something that, what are they? You know what I'm trying to say, that God is all, God is, I can't think of the fancy terms for them.
The omnis.
Yeah, the omnis, I guess. But to me, that simplifies it, where if I'm connected to him through my spirit and my soul, then he's right there with me all the time. and he can understand. And if I pay attention, I can understand him too, I think. So in the same way, I believe that he's got that same connection with you guys. And then on this other level, I can kind of see a picture of heaven in my mind. Am I going too far here? I can see a picture of heaven in my mind and kind of understand it in a way. I don't see heaven as wings and floating around on my own cloud and having my own, house that I like and mansion stuck in. I don't see heaven that way. I see it, if I close my eyes and I'm not seeing anything, I see it as being this connection I'm talking about right here, that I'm existing with you guys and him through our spirit. That's the picture I get, and it helps me to kind of maybe understand it. I may be getting a lot of it kind of wrong, but streets of gold and all that, beautiful thoughts. I don't really, that doesn't really do things for me.
Yeah, and are those...
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I'm saying that's...
And are those, again, I'm not saying those things aren't real.
Right, I'm not either.
But are those things that are really dummied down for us to try to put some flesh on it, to try to understand that there is going to be a real physical presence with God. It probably won't be a whole lot different than our world is today, except obviously we won't have sin and all that other stuff going on. But it is this reality. When I think about those things too, and sometimes I think, sometimes people will look at that and go, well, Christians are crazy if you think God does all this. Well, look at our movies that are super popular, Marvel's movies, DC movies. There's a superhero who has supernatural abilities beyond our own. There's usually some kind of multiverse. There's some kind of time skipping. Why is that in people's hearts that don't even believe there is a God? Because God puts eternity in man's heart. There's this desire for us to know that there's more to this life than what we see and express and feel here. And we really realize there has to be something more out there. So David, he's writing this and he's confounded. Golly, where can I go that you're not there? And that's troubling and yet comforting all at the same time. I can't hide my sin from God, but isn't it good to know that I can't hide from God? If your God is somebody that you can hide from, then is he really God at all? That's where you kind of, I try to get to that stuff, but it really then comes back to this idea of how valuable life is. And our culture has really dealt with this recently, where we're really unsure about gender, we're unsure about what marriage looks like, we're unsure about, Roe v. Wade, who has the rights, So, as we read through that, what are some things that you guys see that the Bible helps us understand the value of life as compared to what our culture says to us?
Pause.
Yeah, I'll edit that.
Yeah, say that again for me, please.
Yeah, how does the Bible help us to understand the value of life in a different way than what our culture tries to tell us is the value?
Yeah, so the fact that Scripture wants us to understand we are created in the image of God, and how powerful that truth should be to us. God created every one of us in some form of his image, so that is how precious life is to him, that he wanted us to have some type of a resemblance of him. And we have issues in our society today where we're thinking we have all these mistakes. We think that a child, an unborn child, is a mistake. We think it's an inconvenience. We think that we can just get rid of this problem. And that, to me, that's just, not just to me. The truth is, that's absolutely sinful and wrong for us to think that we can destroy something that God has given that is so precious to him. The fact that the Scripture talked about that he knew us before we ever took our first breath in this world, that's how precious each human being is to him. Now like you said, we have done such a tremendous job of tearing down what a precious thing a life is, and we have so just neglected that. We've dummied it down. We've taken that and just said that it sells. There's nothing special here, and that we can just dispose of this, and there's no wrongs with that. But Scripture is reminding us and teaching us and wants us to share this over and over again, that is not the truth. We are precious beings. God wants to have this eternal relationship with every single person that's conceived, and we're just screwing it up. You're going to say something?
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say how bad our culture is screwing that up, and how the culture is contradicting itself. There seems to be a little shift. Maybe I'm not seeing this right, but I kind of sense there's a little shift where people have about kind of come to the end of dealing with the woke stuff and all that, because it's so ridiculous. Mm-hmm. And what really stands out to me about the big thing that really troubles me in our culture nowadays is this whole gender thing. About how can you get to a place in your mind where you believe that you can let a toddler determine their gender,
or let the parents determine that for the toddler?
Anybody. There's something really twisted about it, but the more you think about it, the more that kind of thinking contradicts what they say they're up to. They say they're up to letting people be themselves and finding their own identity. Obviously, if you're trying to be an identity of something that you're not being yourself at all. And you just talked about it, that God obviously makes everybody so different. Billions and billions of people, but you can't find two people that are exactly alike in the way they think, some of them look similar. But when you get down to the core of people, you can't find two human beings that are alike. Mm-hmm. Similar maybe, but not alike. So this the whole thing's been happening around the world, not just here, but around the world, about the identity thing, the inclusion thing, the diversity thing, all that. It's actually going against their own stated beliefs. I sense that that's beginning to change some. Now, whether people will follow through and just kind of totally get rid of that stuff and kind of get back to what y'all are talking about, being who we at this table believe God made us that way. Now, you don't have to believe God made you the way you are, but you are the way you are, and you are what you were created. Whether He did that or you believe somebody else created you, you are what you are. If you're a man, you are a man. If you're confused about that, then there's something inside you that you really need to examine. I mean, that's just obvious. I'm not afraid to say that, because that's the truth. There's something you need to examine about why you would think that. Why are you not satisfied with just what you are and who you are? Why? I think the Christian people don't grapple that, because we understand that we were made a certain way by somebody outside of us. So what we do, I think, as Christians, is we try to find out how to live out according to the way we were made. And I believe we're much happier.
Well, there's a brokenness in all of us. I mean, I wish I was more muscular. I wish I could preach like Billy Graham and have that voice. But that's not who I am. And even though we might be disappointed in our design, we understand that there's also value to be had in the design. And when you look at our culture as a whole, they don't operate in truth. And so therefore the untruth begins to, like you just said, begins to crumble beneath the weight of itself. Truth doesn't crumble because it's true. Untruth crumbles because it's false. I know years ago, back when Roe v. Wade was still a big thing and hadn't been overturned, basically what our culture was saying was that thing in a woman's body is really not a life. And a woman has a right to make a choice. Now, I'll just be the first to say, as men, I know kind of what we think about it probably is different than what a woman thinks, because we don't have the burden of, oh, I've got to birth this thing and then nurse this thing and take care of this thing, because we can leave. Let's just be honest, we can leave. So I get why culture started going, women should have more of a choice in this thing. But that's what culture tried. The only way you can get past I've murdered my baby is to consider it a thing. It's like a cancer. If I could get rid of this cancer, then I would be free and could go on with my life. The problem with that is then, gosh, what was this, 20 years ago? When Doug Peterson murders his girlfriend or wife who was pregnant, and they tried him for double murder.
Scott Peterson.
Scott Peterson,
yes.
Not Doug Peterson. Yeah, Scott Peterson. So which is it? Is it a life or is it not a life? So they're not even being true to themselves. And what's the end result of all of this? Well, you'll have a few people out there, oh, I'm much happier living my life as a woman. I was born a man, but I'm much happier living my life as a woman. Statistics are overwhelmingly showing these people are hurting emotionally, mentally, they're depressed, because the truth doesn't add up. When we fight against the sovereignty of God, do we have a free will? Sure we do. But when we fight against the sovereignty of God, we find ourselves in a mess because we've not basing our life on truth. Now, again, a lot of brokenness. And so for anybody out there who's struggling with identity or struggling with worth or struggling with value, I'm not saying you're wrong for feeling that way. I am saying you're misguided if you're trying to go against what God says. You know, you need some counsel. You need somebody to help you. You need somebody, because all of us, I mean, in one way or another, have wanted to escape our life. If I could just escape my life and go be a different person,
be better.
It'd be cool. I mean, we all do that. It's the reason we dress up at Halloween and we put on masks all the time. I've heard you say, I've got a brand. I've created this brand for a long time. Well, okay, everybody wants to have a little bit of escape. But again, look at the value from your creator's perspective and understand that, you know what, even if I don't like everything about me, there's still some good in me, some good things about me. Short people want to be tall. Tall people want to be shorter. Girls with curly hair want straight hair. Girls with straight hair want curly hair. You know, that's just part of human existence, I think.
We always want what we don't have.
We always want what we don't have.
That's a good way to say that. But
when you look at David is walking through this process in his mind to go, wow, God, you're so much bigger than I am, and you understand more than I do. And even at the end of this psalm, he's mad at some people, and he's like, God, why don't you just kill them? But then he almost comes as a confessional, and he says, search my heart, O God. Am I right in thinking this way? Because he's self-righteous. God, I hate the people that you hate. But if I'm wrong in that, search my heart out. And I think that's where we have to get to in this sanctity of life thing. And we as human beings should be protectors of life, but especially Christians. We should see the value in unborn children. We should see the value in our elderly population that we want to just put in a box somewhere and forget about them. There's value. You know, there's value in that. Every next generation thinks the older generation's dumb and stupid.
Exactly.
And, you know, but there's value in there.
You know what? There's value in. I don't mean to bash people who are confused.
No,
I want to get that straight. None of us do. I know. There's value in those people. What I would like to see, myself included, do in those confusing times is ask myself why I'm thinking that way. On the whole gender identity thing, you know, where people are obviously a little confused, I believe, to even start thinking that about themselves. Is that something that you thought of on your own, or is that something that the culture around you has led you to believe could be a possibility? I'm pretty sure that nobody is born confused about what they are. I'm pretty sure about that. I'm not, I didn't go to school for this. I'm not a medical professional, sorta, I'm not. But anyway, I believe that nobody, if a toddler is born, and when he's 3 or 4 years old, if it's a boy, I don't really think on their own they could imagine that they're not what they are. I think it has to come from outside of them. Is that?
We know the scripture talks about train up a child in the way that they should go. That's not just about spiritual aspects, but it's also about just teaching them how to be male, how to be female. Nothing wrong with being a tomboy. If you're a girl and you're a tomboy and you like to go play baseball with the boys and throw football, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Right.
If you like pink and you just want to play Tea Party, there's nothing wrong with that. But we have a responsibility to teach our kids what it means to be boys, what it means to be girls, understanding that there's still some variety in that. I mean, it's not every girl's a Barbie. Not every guy's a Ken, and so we have to, I think that's where we've messed up, is we've almost devalued anybody that doesn't fit in a box. So now all of a sudden they want to be totally out of the box and be just anarchist in what they think about their own body and their self, but it's detrimental. It's absolutely detrimental.
You know what's real interesting here? I haven't thought about this too much until just now, but you think about these characters in the Bible, like we're talking about David here, aren't we? Heroes of the faith, et cetera, et cetera. Guys sit around in anguish a lot thinking about these things. That's encouraging to me that the big shot in the Bible recorded episodes where he was sitting around just kind of thinking, and he was in anguish a little bit about some of it, but he was figuring it out. So
we're not so odd.
We're not so odd.
I mean, we struggle with the same things that the heroes of faith struggled with.
That's encouraging to me.
Yeah.
It's like when I watch golf and I watch one of those pros knock one off in the woods there, I'm going like, yes.
You're normal.
There's hope. Yeah.
So how does God and God's Word help us deal with sanctity of life, identity, our place in life? How does God's Word and how does God in His sovereignty, how does He help us be comfortable in our own skin?
Because you have an answer. And it's simple. Why the older you get, supposedly the smarter you get, why would you keep thinking that you might be smarter than him? Once in a while, I'm thinking, well, why would it not be easier for us just to, well, heck, I don't want to have the answer. It's pretty cozy him having the answer. I'll just, why do we fight that? Is it the pride thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yep.
Something to chew on there.
But I think, again, what we need to see is there's sanctity in life. And we don't always understand. I mean, we've all been around family that you've walked out of a nursing home or a hospital and said, please, God, let them die. And that person's even praying, God, let me die.
Yeah.
But I don't think that gives us the right to go take a morphine drip and pump it in their blood just to kill them right then. There's purpose in our life, even when we don't see that purpose. Years ago, Agnes Blackwell, she was 90-something years old. And she walked down the aisle. She said, I want to join your church. And I was like, okay. And she said, but I want to tell you something. She said, I'm an old woman, and I don't even know if I can be here every Sunday. I don't know what I can do. But she said, I'll tell you this, I'll pray for you. You know what? She has value to the church. She had value to me. I was like, thank you. And we celebrated when she got to go home and be out of pain and all that stuff. But you know what? I miss her. I miss that person praying for me. Yeah. And there's been several of my friends that have been at that stage in life where they're like, I can't do a whole lot, but I'll pray for you and I'll support you. And, so wherever you are today, that's one of my things for you. Wherever you are today, don't discount that you have a value. Even when the world tells you you don't, because that's what a lot of our world says. If you don't make this much money and have this many muscles or fit this stereotype, that you have no value. You have a value. God created you that way for a purpose. Whether you're the big toe or the little toe, you have value. If you don't believe me, go cut that sucker off and you'll realize how unbalanced your life will be.
You know, and the one that has given you value, you know, he loves us.
Yep.
He loves every single person that is listening to this and that's not listening to this, that's around the world. You know, that's why John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world."
Yep.
Every single being, every human being, he loves them. And that's why he allowed Jesus to die on the cross for them. And our prayer and his hope is that you will say yes to Jesus so that you can be a part of that big family.
Isn't it interesting that he would care for you?
Yeah.
If he's out there, you know. I know there are people that wonder if he's really out there. If he's out there and he actually cares for you, isn't that a great feeling?
And what an unworthy feeling.
Yeah.
As messed up as we are, but yet he loves us.
And if he's out there and he created you for a purpose, then your life literally has no purpose until you give your life back to him.
I believe that is correct. Yeah, you know what else I believe is correct? Is that you won't ever find that,
Correct.
even a semblance of that purpose, until you connect up with the one that created you in the first place.
That's your
Because I spent a lot of years looking. I used to say that I've done everything once and some things twice, and never found a real reason to be there until I connected with him. And then it made a lot more sense, and it's been a lot more fun.
Yep.
A lot more enjoyable.
And that's not to say that Christians never get depressed, or we never get blue, or we never
question
things and all that stuff.
Not to say at all.
It's not to say that, you know, once you receive Christ or believe in Christ that everything is just hunky-dory and easy. But again, you've got somebody fighting for you, and your life will seem more valuable to you because you'll feel that from his perspective. There's several of these Old Testament saints that cried out, "Can you just kill me now?
Oh yeah,
I wish I had never been born."
Yeah.
You know, they cried, they lamented, they hurt. So the pain of life will cause us to think irrationally, but again, in him we will be much more secure in our own skin. You're not going to be secure in your skin when you don't know who you are.
No. Hey, Paul had a thorn.
Yep.
I think it was a wart right between his eyes.
Perhaps.
I had to think about that one for a second.
Yeah.
I was like,
Inny or Outty?
Yeah. Speaking of which, are y'all satisfied
Yes,
with your
sir.
Bible
It's
talk?
good.
I am too. We'll take a break, come back, play Inny or Outty.
Do you listen to or watch Mike the Baptist? Do you wear clothes? If so, we've got some great news. T-shirts and hoodies are now available at MikeTheBaptist.com. Just visit MikeTheBaptist.com, click on the merchandise link, and you'll find high-quality tees, hoodies, and even onesies for the babies in a variety of colors, all with the Mike the Baptist logo and familiar sayings from the program. Mike the Baptist is a true labor of love. No one has to pay to listen or watch the program, but Mike and the crew have to eat. So a portion of each sale of a t-shirt or hoodie goes to Mike's local Kroger, Walmart, or electric utility. It's kind of simple like that. In order to keep the program free, we have to generate a bit of income to pay the bills. When you make a purchase, you're not only doing the world a favor by wearing clothes, you're helping keep the messages of Mike the Baptist on the air. Thanks for helping out, and thanks so much for being involved in spreading the good news. What a great planet.
Hey everybody, it's time to play America's almost favoriteest new game show, Inny or Outty, where we challenge our guests to figure out if a phrase we give them is actually in the Bible or out of the Bible. Sharpen your wits, guest. You're about to be in the hot seat of Bible stuff, because you're the next contestant on Inny or Outty. Here's Mike.
Oh, such an exciting time. This is one of the exciting times of Mike the Baptist to me. Now, I like the Bible talk. I get calmly excited in a different way. It's real deep stirring. This is pretty much on the surface, but it's fun. Inny or Outty is educational, but it's funny educational. Now, the funniest thing about it to me is discovering that you're not as smart as you think you are, or you were.
That's fun-ucational.
Is what?
Fun-ucational. That's a new word.
Fun-ucational. Listen,
don't shrinkle
if
that
it takes us 20 years, guys, we're getting a word in the dictionary.
I like that one.
I mean, to be able in your family to go down in the history of your family as having a word in the dictionary, how cool would that be?
I'm seeing the Inny or Outty board game and fun-ucational,
Fun-ucational. Somebody write that down.
What a way to advertise that.
Yeah, write that down.
Put it in your Inny or Outty list.
In one of those yellow stars on the cover, fun-ucational. Okay, so today on Inny or Outty, I'm going to do one, and I think Brother Hodo's going to do one.
Sure.
Brother Hodo, I don't know what happened to him last year, but he just went nuts over Inny or Outty, and he just started sitting around stocking these things up, and he's got like this warehouse.
I don't have a life, so.
He doesn't have a life, but
he wakes up at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
I'm glad he did, but I'll start and save yours for last.
Okay.
Because you have that ornery look on your face that you're up to something, so it may be entertaining.
Which of these 20 words?
Here you go, fellas, my preacher friends. Is the phrase, the promised land, in the Bible? This came from a previous episode,
right,
if you'll recall.
Right.
This came up, and I said, hey, I'm going to use that. The phrase, the promised land, is it in the Bible? It's all yours to discuss now, out loud, because it is a podcast.
I was going to say yeah to that one, wouldn't you?
That's the initial thought that comes to mind.
Promised land.
Gut, that's what I refer to.
Promised you.
Yes, that's the gut.
That's my gut.
The land that I've promised you, land flowing with milk and honey. I will make you a father of many nations. I will give you a land. But does it refer to it as the land that I promised you and not the promised land?
Yeah. Order is important.
Well, yeah, that's kind of the idea of the game sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, especially if the asker prefaces it with, is this phrase.
Did anybody in the New Testament refer back to it, though, as the promised land?
I don't know. I just keep hearing that song in my hand. We are bound for the promise.
You're dating yourself.
I know, right?
Those,
you're welcome.
Those churchy songs will mess us up on our theology.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Some of the newer ones will.
Yeah.
The old ones, they'd make you stick.
Gut reaction. I'm going to say yeah.
Saying yeah, huh?
See, the Holy Land, you've messed us up on that. So
because when I was thinking Holy Land, I was thinking, I think the Promised Land's in there.
Yeah.
I really did, but now I'm kind of doubting my own self.
Did we get the Holy Land wrong when he asked us that?
No, y'all got it right.
We did get it right.
Y'all
I can't remember that. That was a week ago.
Yeah.
We said it wasn't, right? Holy Land was not in there.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes, it was extra biblical.
Gotcha.
Documentation that called it that.
So the question here on the table is the Promised Land. And very familiar churchy phrase.
Very familiar. Yeah.
So churchy, in fact, I'm going to buzz it because that's just really that's a churchy phrase.
Yeah. I'm good for it being in there. I really am.
Okay.
That was my initial gut reaction was in.
Go ahead and burst our balloon, but we're going to say, Promised Land is in there.
You got to say Inny because it's a branding thing.
It's Inny.
No, it's not in there. It's referenced just as you described it earlier. The land that I promised you, the place that I promised you, et cetera, et cetera. Now, let me caveat. Is that the word? That let me throw this in there too. I know that's true of the King James Version. I do not know about the other translations.
Well, let's just go ahead and say we were right. In the other version.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
I would try to save myself, to get something there. But no, it's not in there. But just as you said, it's the land that I promise you, et cetera, et cetera. Those phrases are in there a lot. So.
Well, good. Yeah. Since you gave us a phrase, I will follow that with another phrase.
Okay. Congratulations, by the way.
Is the phrase going to heaven after you die in the Bible? Going to heaven after you die.
Could that also be used as you are going to go to heaven after you die, or just going to heaven?
I mean, yeah, you could put
Just-
an RU up
Gotcha.
in front of it. Just that thought process, that phraseology, going to heaven after you die.
Gut
This-
says no.
It sounds pretty tricky
Yeah.
because
it sounds too modern to me.
yeah, but in those days when all that would have been written, what was their concept then?
Same as ours.
Oh, that would explain the religion lasting this long, wouldn't it? I didn't think that through. Well, I
Going
mean,
to heaven
like
after you die.
the way we believe nowadays, you die and then you go to heaven, you get your mansion, et cetera, walking the streets, all that. But in those days,
Well, for the Old Testament time, they really didn't even call it heaven. They went to,
Sheol.
yes.
yeah,
I don't think that's in there. But let me also say this. 3 weeks in,
yes.
and I am a big old goose egg for the year on Inny or Outty.
Oh no, really?
So I am really not liking this game show anymore.
I don't even remember. I think I may have got 1 or 2 right,
Well, I know y'all did, but
I don't remember. So you don't have any yet.
I'm a big old...
Well, I want to wait. Who asked? H answers me and you, aren't
yeah, you and I.
Okay.
So yeah,
Well,
there's,
I want to
there's
help
no
you.
help for you.
I want to help you though.
This really is fun-educational.
It is fun-educational. I love it. I was talking to a couple of young boys recently that listen to this and like it. Interesting.
Have they made their own version yet? Do they challenge each other with questions?
I don't recall the discussion there, but
Okay. It was fun-educational, at least.
what did you say?
I don't think it's in there.
I don't
think
either.
that phrase is.
I think the concept is a little more down the road than what the scriptures were writing.
Going to heaven after you die, was that the phrase?
Mm-hmm. Did they even say in the presence of God? Or is that something that preachers just made up at funerals nowadays?
Absent from the body is present with the Lord.
Yeah, is that in there?
Yes.
It is in there.
Yes, that is
Okay.
scripture.
But did it say in heaven?
I'm out.
You know what the
Howdy.
did you know that
Howdy,
Baptists
howdy.
Baptists will be the only people in purgatory telling the truth?
Are you calling purgatory timeout?
Yeah, I made that up years ago. I thought it was funny, but maybe it's missing. I need to work on it a bit.
In that one phrase, you've made the Catholics and the Baptists mad.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I'm equal
That's what he
opportunity.
Right?
He loves to stir the pot.
So
I'm with
y'all's
you.
answer is out.
Audi. It's an Audi.
What was your score so far this year?
Oh no.
So am I 0 for 5 or 6 now?
Let me
Oh,
be
no.
the first to congratulate you to get one right this year.
Yes.
Yeah. That phrase, going to heaven after you die, is not in there. Obviously, we know that after we die, we go to heaven because you're absent from the body, you're present with the Lord. His presence is in heaven. So we know that truth is shared, but that phrase, going to heaven after you die, is not. That phrase is not in there.
Boy, we used that a lot in the 70s and 80s, though, didn't
Yeah.
we, during invitations?
Yeah.
Boy, howdy.
Well, the truth is real.
Yes, it is.
The
Yes.
truth is real.
Yeah.
It's just that phrase is not in Scripture.
I guess it's the concept, how the
Yep.
concept has obviously changed
Yep.
over time. I hope we didn't get it wrong. Now we're kind of getting it all messed up nowadays.
No, we're going to heaven.
Good.
Yeah.
In your Outty, in the books. Be right back.
Oh, wow. What a great contestant and a fine sport today on Inny or Outty, America's almost favorite new game show. Study up, future guest people. You're next in the hot seat for Inny or Outty.
So, thanks for being with us today. Next week, we're going to bring back a hymn for you. We're not going to this week because Koontz has something in his throat. And I want him to be able to relay the important message of whatever hymn we select. So it's not totally gone. We talked about not doing it, but then I think Koontz himself mentioned that we should probably have a hymn on occasion.
I think we should. I think that's scriptural.
I think so. I had a wildly fun time when it started out, just dragging all those 70 songs up and calling them a hymn, and I still do. But We're getting so much more serious now. And next week, we'll have a hymn for you. You can't wait. You like how I said that? You can't wait. Meanwhile, thanks to Michael Koontz,
Jackson.
H.T. Jones,
Great to be here.
Mike the Baptist. We're all three just Christians.
Trying not to
Cuss.
And you should try not to as well, I'm just saying. So, good luck to you. See you next time.
Mike the Baptist.